they are planted. I didn't have a lot of success with the small plugs I planted last year. This year I grew them on in poi pots and made sure they were really well fed, and as I was planting these they got a really good handful of organic poultry manure, so they've had an excellent start. Even though these were planted from 15 centimetre poi pots, the 10 centimetre earth auger and battery drill helped a lot with drilling the initial holes, which I finished off with the garden trowel. The ground here is very stony, and the small crowbar was also useful. The intention was to put this straw mulch around the base of them all to further reduce the requirement for vegetation control, though no digging up the Paulownia, Foxy. No, don't do that. I don't think the fox will be a major issue this year. He can be when planting smaller plugs. He digs them up looking for worms. The blackbirds also peck away looking for insects, so as I've got another bag of that straw mulch, I'll use it up in this area around the Paulownia. It's claimed to deter slugs, and that's a major impediment to Paulownia growth here in Ireland. My other strategy to mitigate the slug issue is to promote fast, tall growth by nipping out any side shoots that I find. And generally that's what I'm going to do ongoing. I've already started trimming away some of the lower branches, side shoots on the more established Paulownia, and I'll continue to do that as well. This is a tomentosa which I stooled, and it's certainly growing. There's the base there. Leaves easily 35-40 centimetres wide. As I've just shown you there, any side shoots that I'm finding I'm picking out to encourage straight, tall growth. There's another couple of months anyway, possibly 3 of the growing season left, so I'm hoping all of these Paulownia will be at least 1.5 metres, hopefully 2 by the end of this year. I'd say that generally the elongata are already taller than the fortunii. Elongata are generally crossed with tomentosa for most of the hybrids that are sold. Another possible factor for the better growth rate of the elongata is that they've been in the plug trays for a season longer than the fortunii. The fortunii are around 1.5 years old now, propagated, sown from seed spring last year. The elongata the year previous. So I've always been of the opinion that Paulownia don't really get going until the 2nd year, so that's a possible factor. While I'm up here, these are some tomentosa that were sown on the 14th of February, and was a bit lazy in opening the polytunnel doors, so it got quite hot in here, possibly 40 degrees C, and quite a few of the seeds that were sown, perhaps about half a dozen, 10 of the original germination are these larger ones, and then a few weeks ago many more germinated due to that high temperature. So in terms of Paulownia being an invasive species here in Ireland, it's just nonsense. They really need very high temperatures to have a decent germination rate. They do put out suckers, but they're highly nutritious, and besides the slugs, the cattle, hares, rabbits and any other herbivore will devour them before they get established. So they are a tree that requires some nurturing until they become tall enough to look after themselves. Having said that, they are grown commercially in Asia and other parts of the world for their foliage, which is used as fodder for livestock. They're also a good tree in terms of reducing wind damage to crops and livestock. Excellent for shade, especially in summer when they're in full leaf. And climate extremes with frequent heat waves and sunny periods are becoming an issue. There's no question about that. Because of their fast growth rates, Paulownia are considered to be one of the best trees in the world for capturing carbon. I'm very much into my modern technology. As I mentioned in the last video, 3D printing is the in thing now, and I'll make more of that. However, I've yet to see any carbon capture device that comes close to competing with growing trees. Not only do the trees capture carbon, they provide constructional material and they regulate water flow, and that's also a factor with climate change. Monthly rainfall isn't uniform, and increasingly there may be no rainfall for most of the month, and then the entire month's rainfall occurs in a few days, which means that when you're reading the statistics, they can be deceptive. If deploying fast-growing carbon capture devices isn't an option for you, then perhaps you can reduce the amount of carbon dioxide you produce in the first place. I wouldn't dream of travelling to the end of the loch and back, around 6 kilometres, in the car. Nothing beats the bike. It's feckin' windy up here. The severity as well as the frequency of storms is increasing, and this past winter Storm Éowyn blew down a high percentage of the shallow-rooted Sitka spruce forests here in Ireland, though it only blew down a few of the eucalyptus trees here. They are deep-rooted. All of the foliage was burnt off, although as you can see it's all recovered. They're thriving. Because conifers tend to be shallow-rooted, they're also more susceptible to drought conditions. In Germany, they're having to replace them with oaks, red oaks. Interestingly here, whilst the Paulownia started germinating and lapped up the high temperatures, the eucalyptus weren't that bothered about it. They probably quite enjoyed it. These giant redwoods, Gigantea, really struggled. As you can see, really need to pot these on pretty quickly or they'll die. So with unpredictable weather patterns caused by climate change, man-made climate change caused by burning fossil fuels, the need to diversify and experiment with different forestry species is an imperative. Thanks for taking the time, always appreciated.